I feel like a sailboat in this sea with so many motor vehicles. But the good thing about it is that we're all heading in the same direction, okay? I'm not going to talk to you about acoustics at all. You're going to imagine what I'm showing you because I'm going to show you some very strong visuals. And my colleagues have already spoken about offices and office environments. So primarily, we just go through the context of Bombay. I'm going to talk to you about the workplace, the historical situation of India. We look at the big elephant in the room because nobody talks about it in India the way we talk about it here. Yeah? It's like one of those sex questions. And what we can do together. So, oops. India is noisy. I think we've lost my Peter. I've lost my, there we go. India is noisy. We're noisy guys, okay? Pink noise, white noise, they are European concepts. If you talk about dark blue and deep magenta, maybe deep green, those are things that we thrive on, yeah? But we're changing rapidly. We're rapidly urbanizing. I'm going to look at territories and I'm going to look at maps. The territory I'm talking to you about is primarily Bombay. There's no typo in these numbers. Yes, we do have 20 million people, and we do spread them over 4,500 kilometers. And we do have peak densities sometimes of 135,000 people per square kilometer, okay? I'm going to show you worse statistics. So this is Bombay. The first few slides talk about just normal Bombay. We live like this. There are many buildings, old parts of Bombay, new parts of Bombay. There are the working class situations of Bombay, and there are our famous slums of Bombay. 60% of our people stay in shanties like this in the city of Bombay. These are our normal roads, okay? The smaller roads where you get to places. This is our normal traffic in the smaller roads. And on the bigger roads, it's just multiplied, okay? For people who've been to Bombay and know what Bombay is all about, how many of you are familiar with Bombay? Ouch. Okay. So there's only two of my colleagues who will tell me whether I'm telling the truth or not. So having said that, we have beaches in Bombay, and this is a typical beach situation on a Friday evening, Saturday evening, Sunday evening. This is pretty much a normal every morning, every evening situation to try and get to work on the trains of Bombay. So you can see these long lines of people who've got off from one mode of transport, waiting to get into these little tuk-tuks, little auto rickshaws, taxis, maybe their cars. I don't think anybody uses their brains to use their cars here. This is the kind of crowd that greets you at a railway station. This is the kind of crowd that you have trying to board a train in the mornings. We used to have this situation of peak loads and peak loads, and then they stopped talking about peak loads because everything went haywire on that. But effectively, we travel like this, okay? Just a few statistics. Our suburban station, we have a ridership projected in the next year of about 9.6 million people. This is per day. The population of Sweden is 9.7 million, okay? We carry this number every day, up and down, from their homes into town to work and back home. We are acutely, we know what's happening around the world. We're rooted in our cultures. What I showed you in the previous slides is what a normal day looks like, okay? But then we have so many festivals, so many celebrations, so many things that we look forward to during the weeks, during the months. So this would be a typical Ganesha festival, and when I was talking to Paige on the phone, this was happening outside my office. And like I said, all I need to do is put my finger in one ear and continue to talk on the other, yeah? We have Eid celebrations for the minority Muslims that stay there. This is in a typical street. We have political rallies sometimes. This is the kind of crowd that follows. I'm only showing you the visuals, okay? I dare not play the soundtrack. You have to imagine that track. You have to imagine the sounds that this creates. This is a festival, human pyramids, that we do once a year. These go up 7 high, and these are the few people that travel with this little group, breaking these little pots that are hung in communities. This is an urban scape of Marine Drive, one of our key features in Bombay. Marine Drive is about 4.5 kilometers. I just did the urban renovation of this about 5-7 years ago. We had an air show over here, and I had set up cameras to monitor the people coming in and out. So, as you see, one side of the street is shut because we're expecting people. The other side still has a few cars. And then the people start coming in from about 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning till about 11:30 when the air show happens. And this is what it looks like. Okay? These are not photoshopped, I can assure you. Again, we were able to accommodate about 1.5 million people, and this was an estimate over 4.5 kilometers. Population of Sweden. We don't do things in small scales, yeah? You want to hear things, you hear it well. But this is a typical artist's installation of what their perception is. And I'm saying we have lots of issues, yeah? We have 29 states and 7 union territories. We're about 1.2 billion people. We have 30 languages, religions, foods, customs, traditions, cultures, etc., etc., etc. I think are unique problems, yeah? This is, if we can sit in the workshop later and find solutions for this, this is going to be fun. So, we talked about the territory, and now we talk about the maps. The way I'm looking at the situation is that the maps are what we take home, our perceptions. So the foreigner's perception, the typical tourist, the guy who goes there to India, ticks it in a box and says, you know, I've been there, I've been to Bombay. They'll see the Taj Mahal, they'll see some, you know, Kerala backwaters, they'll see some elephants and some festivity. The traveler has a little more earthy view. It's been there once or twice before, understands the cultures, maybe goes to the villages. The business associate hears big things about India, looks at the Make in India campaigns. Our prime minister is going all over the world talking about stuff, encouraging people to come to India and work there, because it is a fabulous, fascinating place. The typical Indian, however, and this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which all of us know, yeah? We have our physiological needs, and then we talk about safety and belonging and love and self-esteem, and then finally, self-actualization, yeah? We're pretty much in this band, yeah? Everything else is beyond. And in the light of this, I'm talking about two contexts. One is the employer's perspective, and one is pretty much the workforce. Diane has talked, Nigel has talked, Sarah has talked. We've been hearing people talking about offices and spaces and workspaces. Let's go into this for a bit. So, the evolution of workspaces post-independence. We were governed by the British, as most of you know, and we've been independent for almost 70 years. Our workspaces started like most workspaces anywhere in the world. Natural light, air, reasonable amount of space per desk. Got slightly cluttered. You see the supervisor sitting up there looking over his people. You have government, public sector units. This is not a 75-year-old photograph. This happens even today in our public sector units. But then papers went out, computers came in, desks changed, environments happened. The first computers insisted that they have air conditioning, and that was a paradigm shift in our office spaces. Then we had public sector helping, saying, may I help you, these very courteous social situations. Then we have our famous call centers. Liberalization happened in India in the early 90s, and then progressively we looked at how people abroad, the world looked at India and demanded of India and its people. So our drab, dreary workforces of call centers started getting youthful. Our kids are youthful. The average workforce is about 26, 28. Start bringing color in, start bringing graphics in, start bringing materials in. People are bringing stuff from all over the place. And we're doing fancy offices here, well-designed, reasonably good acoustics, reasonably good showcases for stuff. Decent materials. You couldn't tell an office in India or Bombay from anywhere else in the world, maybe. So, we're acutely aware of what's happening today. Okay, workspace comfort, collaborative environment, social interests, personal health, well-being, etc., etc. We adopt new systems, we adapt appropriate products, we imitate new styles, integrate experiences in our lifestyle, and yet that innate relationship of ours to cost, price, and value is very, very critical. So having said that, I'm just going to do a quick comparison between the workspace, which is the employer's priorities, and the employee, or the workforce. This is in order of priority. This is my perception, and it's perception built over 25, 30 years. So capital cost is the first thing they think about, and then they talk about compliance, IT systems, image, brand value, aesthetics, maintenance costs, ergonomics, social spaces, staff productivity, sustainability now, art and artifacts. Maybe I forgot Nora. There is acoustics. Yeah. From the workforce priority, it's, hello, what's my salary? Where are we going to be located? You saw what he has to go through to get to work. How many holidays do we have? How much leave will I get? What's the timings? The designation is critical. Okay. Deputy Secretary, Digital Diplomacy. Wow. So, workspace entitlements, we talked about it. Perks, cafeteria subsidies, will I get free food? Social spaces, who are my co-workers? What's the brand value of my employer? Will I get increments? Oh yeah, of course, there's productivity. Yeah. So these are the way priorities happen. So, in an employee, an employer to a workforce relationship, the architect who looks at the spatial relationships, who measures out and who designs and who puts MEP together and everything else, is also being a situation of balance between the two, because now we're talking about inclusive stuff. We're playing interpreter, business consultant, enabler, information, of course, counselor. Yeah, those are the new roles we've taken on. Quickly, the three principles: reduce, recycle, reuse. The 4 R's we talk about. The first thing is refuse. If you say no, you don't get pregnant. You know, that's the way it works. The 3 E's we talk about. We try and solve our design problems by engineering it. If we can't solve it by engineering, we talk about awareness. Make people aware of what the situation is. If you can't do that, put a fine on the guy, discipline him, stuff like that. Okay, that's the way we look at it. Problem solving, and very critical, what gets measured gets managed. Acoustics, yeah. When we talk about acoustics here, the client is accepting that he doesn't want to hear what happens in each room. Yeah, so isolation is okay. Absorption, yeah, we've got carpets, we've got ceilings, we're fine. Anything else beyond that, not encouraged. When we talk acoustics to our people, they talk about, show me something that's been done before in India. And that's a very difficult one to do, because we have to look at priorities and precedents. Global practices, everybody who comes down to India and says, this is what we do abroad, we show them the first few slides and say, listen, if it's appropriate, we'll look at it. If it's not, we have a bit of a problem, we have to adjust. We understand the principles, we understand what we need to do, but I think we need to adjust and formalize it, uniqueize it to an Indian condition. Incremental project cost is normally the deterrent. Perceived complexity is the issue for no perceived advantage. It's very difficult for clients to see the perceived advantage. And of course, first principles over engineered and technical solutions. The other thing that we have in a situation like Bombay is that we don't have adequate competition. So we typically have to have 3 tenders or 4 tenders or 5 tenders to compare prices and to compare specifications. And unfortunately, there may be 3 or 4 big players that comply with this. So we need more people to come into that space. So what is our collective role as professionals? Maybe we should acutely influence the client briefs that we have. I think it's an important thing that we work together to achieve this, create awareness of our products and technologies. We innovate to suit costs and budgets, prioritize with capital expenses with our client, and try to explain to them what good over average is. Try and explain to them what productivity over aesthetic is. I think it's very important for that to happen. There are no tools to measure the impact of good acoustic design on productivity. I mean, unless I go through a system where I say, this guy was in a controlled environment and this guy was in a non-controlled environment and see the difference. We've seen a lot of them yesterday. There are no tools to allow me to show my clients how this happens. Good acoustic design comes at a higher cost. I think this is very important to break this notion or this perception. Re-establish the relationship between cost, price, and value. I think we need to be able to show our clients what value is, what value he will get. Nigel talked about just a 5% increase in productivity pays for your costs. Yeah? I think that's an important thing. And we very rarely get clients who indulge us and let us go through all this. It's important for us in an Indian context that we look at influencing policy. I think I've been talking to Manit, Ecophone. There are green ratings that are available. There are incentives that the government gives. I think we can do something like that for acoustics. Maybe it'll work. Cash incentives is pretty much the only language that everybody understands. And collaboratively, I don't think the architects can do it alone. I don't think acousticians can do it alone. I don't think vendors can do it alone. We have to do it together and start the change process. So just in conclusion, a very quick story. Bata, the shoe manufacturer, came to India, sent scouts to India about 50, 60 years ago, and said, check out the market there. So one group came back saying, no potential, nobody wears shoes. And the other group came back and said, huge potential, nobody wears shoes. Okay? Bata came into India, and they probably have a couple of thousand outlets which sells shoes in India. Thank you.